hate it when a camping trip goes wrong. Well, I'm in the middle of nowhere. The only thing I have on me is some matches. I'm going to have to survive or something. This is great. In order to survive, you need two main things. You need water and you need food. I have plenty of water right here. There's a lake right there. But I have no food. I think the easiest way to get food, obviously, is to get fish out of the lake. But like I said, I only have a pack of matches with me, so I'm gonna have to get creative. Let's go. So, things aren't looking so good. I don't have a whole lot on me. The only thing I have on me is some matches. So I can make a fire, but I have no way of getting food, and without food, I'm probably not going to make it. Now, there is a lake nearby, and I should be able to get some fish, so I'm going to have to make some sort of fishing contraption, and I'm thinking the easiest thing for me to make is a good old-fashioned fishing spear. So, let's get at it. So a fish spear is a pretty simple tool. It is basically just a sharpened stick that you use as a projectile in order to inhabilitate fish. So the first thing I'm going to need is a stick. Thankfully, we're in the woods. There's lots of sticks around. There's a lot of tiny sticks, obviously, laying everywhere, but I want a heavier stick because in order to kill a fish, I need a lot of force behind it, and having a heavier stick is going to allow me to put a lot more force behind that spear. This tree is fairly straight, and it's got a pretty thick body on it. I'm going to try and snap it off right here. This is still a green tree, so it might be a little difficult to break. We're going to give it a shot. Alright. Alright, we got a tree. Alright, so I got my shaft for my spear. Now the next thing we gotta do is take these branches off. So I'm going to have to find some sort of a sharp edge in order to shape this stick. And that's where the challenge comes in, because there's no metal out here. All there are sticks and rocks. That being said, I think rocks might be the solution. Come on. So for this, I'm going to need this granite rock right here. And this granite rock right here. Alright, so this is my thought process. We have a piece of granite right here, and I have another big piece of granite over there. Now, granite is a fairly brittle rock, which means you can break fragments off of it. And if I can break a fragment off of this granite that has a sharp edge, I can use it to shape my stick. So I'm basically going to take this piece of granite and throw it on this piece of granite right here and try and fracture off a piece. Alright, so I was able to get a couple fragments off that rock. As you can see, this one right here, it's got a nice edge on it. This one also has a nice edge. The one thing I wasn't really counting on is this granite's actually kind of crumbly. As you can see, it's kind of rotten. So it's not as brittle as I thought it would be. I'm going to look around and see if I can't find a more brittle piece of granite. We got some decent chunks, but I think we can do better. I think I found a way more brittle piece of granite. As you can see, this stuff is really smooth on the surface, and it looks like if it does shatter, it's going to have some nice sharp edges. Let's see what happens. Alright, so I finally broke off a nice piece of granite. As you can see, the edges are so thin and sharp that the light is actually reflecting through it. It's actually quite beautiful. But as you can see, this has got a good edge on it. I can hold it kind of like a knife and hopefully shape my piece of wood into something sharp. I'm going to get a couple more fragments and we're going to start shaping. Got one of my fragments of granite right here. It's not the sharpest edge I have, but I think it'll work for just knocking off these branches. Look at that. Obviously a knife's going to do a better job, but the sharp rocks are doing okay. Alright, so as you guys can see, I put a split in the end of my spear. Now the next thing I'm going to do is just jam a little piece of rock down in this split to separate the two pieces and keep them apart, as you can see right there. Now I'm going to sharpen each half of this stick into a sharp point. That way I have a two-pronged spear. This is going to be way more effective than a single point spear. So I'm going to get my sharpest rock and start shaping these into points. Alright, so after hacking on this stick for a while, I have started to shape these ends into points. As you can see, they're very rough, but I have gotten the basic shape. The next thing I'm going to do to this spear is fire harden it. Fire hardening is a technique that's been used for hundreds of years to strengthen the tips of wooden spears. And basically, what it is you make a fire, you stick your spear in there, you move it back and forth, and eventually all of the moisture gets drawn out of the wood, and the wood becomes very, very tough. Alright, so I've been sanding for a while now, and I have the spear tips to a place where I'm pretty happy with them. I want to make sure these spear tips are very sharp. I want to be able to effectively spear a fish and get it out of the water and not wound it and have it swim off. So having some sharp tips on this spear is definitely going to help. One other thing is I jammed a rock down between the split I made in the stick, and that just spreads these two prongs farther apart. There's one more thing I want to do quick before I head out and try to get a fish with this spear, and that is to prevent this split from going any farther. Given enough time, this split will just continue on down the stick and it will weaken the spear. In order to prevent this split from going any farther down the stick, I'm going to have to find something to lash the base of this with. And that is where this tree comes in. As you can see, the bark from this tree comes off in nice little strips right here. This is actually a pretty long piece. This stuff proves very, very useful. It's actually quite tough, so we'll use this to lash our spear together. Alright guys, I think it's ready. Let's go. Alright guys, I'm down here at the lake. It is time to put this spear to use. I'm thinking the easiest thing for me to spear is going to be a carp. They like to hang around the shore and they're pretty easy to spot. Let's give it a go and see what we can do. There's carp right here. They're all through here. So the water's not very clear here, but it is pretty shallow. And I think some of these carp are up in here spawning or feeding. Just watching for any disturbance in the water. I saw a carp up there. It was pretty big. It had its back literally sticking out of the water. That's how big it was. Let's actually do something. This ground's pretty moggy. Alright, so there was a carp right in there, but I think when I was walking out on the log, I spooked him. I'm gonna go back in a little farther and try another spot. Let's go. Big carp right here. It's a good carp. He's feeding right now, which is good. If I can get up behind him, I think I could put put a spear in him. Missed him. He saw me and took off. Now I'm like stuck in this mud. Yes! Got him. Got one. All right, guys, the fish has been clubbed. It is over. I'm shaking like a leaf, guys. The spear did a good job, actually. As you can see, it came right out right there. I gotta say, guys, that was intense. The first carp I saw in here, I snuck up on it, and it saw me and started swimming away, so I just slowly followed it, and it bolted, and I just made a wild stab. I thought I was good, but I obviously missed that fish. I was getting ready to leave, and then I noticed some movement right back there by that tree, so I snuck over there, and sure enough, there was another carp in there. I made a jab at it, I hit the fish, and the fish took off out of control. I was able to locate it and get a final stab in it, and it was done. But yeah, super, super crazy. With a primitive spear, who would have thought? I am utterly filthy and soaked. I have been slogging around in mud, but it's worth it. We got a fish, and we're gonna have something to eat. That's awesome. All right, the carp is done. Let's eat. Yeah, honestly, this carp isn't that bad. It's not the best fish in the world, but it's totally edible. It's got a nice smoky flavor though, being cooked over the fire. That's surprisingly pretty good. Well, guys, I gotta say, finding food was a success. I was able to make a spear and spear a fish and have food, and that is very, very important. You know, it's gonna be tough, but I think I can survive out here in the wilderness. I think I'm gonna be okay. That's a house. I didn't see that. All right, I guess I'll be fine.